Zion, hear me! It is true what many of you have heard. There is a second episode.
Welcome everyone to the N3RD podcast Matrix Special Edition episode. I am your host, Rich Kiefer, joined today by Lance T. Miller.
What up?
Morpheus.
It is I again.
Indeed it is. And Amber Bay.
Hello, hello.
Whoa. Deja vu.
It's almost like we've done an episode like this before.
It's almost like we tried to do this intro and then wildly fucked up.
Yeah.
A little bit. And that's how we roll here.
Everybody fails their intro the first time, right, friend?
I don't know what you're talking about, fool. Alright, so we've been on this journey, so to speak. If this is your first time tuning in, we've been on this journey watching all the Matrix films, plus all the filler stuff. So that includes Animatrix, the
Enter the
Matrix video game.
We did expose Lance and Amber to the alternate ending to Revolutions because why the hell not?
Everybody needs to see it once.
I fell asleep right at the end.
Yeah.
Damn it, Lance.
I couldn't stand 10 minutes of him fighting the gigantic fucking construct. And I was like, alright, I'm out.
Welcome to my realization with Matrix Reloaded. And I'm like, and I'm out. Wake me up to when we get to the cool
Wake me
park
up before
fight.
you go.
Wake me up to the kung fu. Thank you very much.
So disappointing.
You have all this sophisticated, ooh, look at me, this is a metaphor for Jesus, and I'm like, kung fu!
You know what we needed to have done? We should have had a dog clicker, and then every time Kung Fu was about to start, just
Kung fu!
Get Richard Pavlovian response.
Yes.
then at game nights we click it, and he's like, Kung Fu!
Kung fu!
So you come for the kung fu, I come for the big long monologues.
And I come for the deeply theological and philosophical existential crises that permeates the entire
And we're not even doing phrasing, are we? Because
No.
we were like, I come for this, and I'm like, wow, someone's going to get the wrong idea with this podcast.
I was literally about to say, I'm not discussing what I come for.
Can I get a rephrase?
And sophomore humor
Alright.
is our specialty. So,
I'm sorry, I prefer senior humor.
ooh,
Fuck sophomores.
sophisticated are we?
I'm kidding.
So,
Put it in my time.
let's go from the Matrix to the Animatrix. I see what they did there.
It's like anime, but it's also the Matrix.
Matrix? I know.
So that is the story that kind of starts the sequel saga.
That starts with the Osiris.
Yeah, depending on what version you're watching, if you watch it on demand, like on Amazon, I believe they saved the last flight of the Osiris for the last, which is bonkers.
Yeah, it's weird.
Maybe if you're doing a marathon, they jumped right into Reloaded.
Yeah, but the last flight of the Osiris is what kicks it off, where it's a little bit of sexy time. With
That
some
erotic fight scene.
erotic katana fighting.
Woo, boy! I remember seeing that and being like, if they had put that in the Matrix to begin with,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an entirely different type of movie.
Yep. But that whole thing's, their sexy time gets interrupted when they find there's like this big group of machines, and they kind of follow them to the surface and discover that the machines are drilling.
And that was Thaddeus and Jew,
Yes.
right? They were the ones fighting. And you realize that at first, they're just sparring, and then all of a sudden you recognize the romantic connection as they start
Sweating and touching each other.
deftly slicing off bits of each other's clothing
Yep.
until you're like,
Okay. Starting to get
and especially if you're sitting in the room with your friends, you're like, this is awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You have to shift uncomfortably
it's
in your
like
seat.
Once they discover the army, obviously there's a like 500,000 machines or something. I forget what they say the exact numbers are.
There's a ton of them.
And they're discovered, so obviously the machines are going to go, oh shit, we've been discovered.
Squiddies!
Let's rip them apart. So they go ahead and Jew makes a drop in the Matrix. Why the ship's flying away, machine guns blazing, which is also something you never see in the movies. Usually when they broadcast, they have to park, and they're very set down.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they were able to do like an emergency jack in, and while they're fighting and doing all this other stuff, then of course everybody dies.
Yeah.
But
and there's a bit of an allusion to a future scene in the Matrix where, you know, Thaddeus is fighting off the Sentinels with the beam gun. Yeah, and they show that later in the series as well. So I like that there's a lot of foreshadowing from the Animatrix back into the actual full series. But yeah, so they find the diggers and give all that data, drop it into the mailbox, and then Jude drops dead where she's standing.
Yeah,
but explaining the concept of hope to the individual who's asking her
the old
what she's doing.
Yep.
And they almost make it seem like the old granny might be like a version of the Oracle, or like a sub.
They definitely like, because you would think that if she bumped into someone like that and actually stood there and talked to her, maybe an agent would warp in, but it's just like, oh no, have a nice day.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was kind of strange.
So maybe that's how the Oracle gets her visions or something like that. She, travels between different humans. I don't know. Anyway,
but out of that whole collection, to be honest, that is really the only one that's of any importance to the rest of the series.
Right.
The rest of them are...
They flesh out the world.
They flesh out the world, especially...
The prequel stuff.
Yeah, in the next segment.
I don't know. Was it the second Renaissance? The one where...
Yeah.
They start fleshing out what happened before any of the Matrixes were
right.
created.
Why everything's dark, why there's storms, why...
It goes over the machines being given sentience and...
Basically being mistreated, which is strange because that's happening now.
Yeah. It was so sad.
And then the humans, having these really...
The machines became what they didn't... The machines became what they hated. Humans were treating machines like shit, so they rose up and took over, but then now they're treating humans like shit.
Well, and prior to that,
thus the cycle continues.
At least the premise of the whole thing is that they make you emotionally bond with the machines from that mentality of, oh, look, now they're the drones, they're the ones doing our mundane, everyday tasks, so you can immediately relate with them.
Oh, no, definitely, yeah.
If you've, lived in the rat race, so you immediately relate to them, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, okay, so now they're replacing us, and we're obsolete, what are we doing? And then it was
just luxury. They show it. It's like we're just drinking and partying all the time and treating them like garbage.
And then when they find out that, oh, okay, the machines are taking over, they get angry in the realization that, well, shit, we've squandered this freedom, basically, and now it's about to be taken away from us because we completely fucked off instead of actually doing something of value.
Working together.
Yeah.
In harmony.
And then... when they're showing the machines trying to get into the UN.
Yeah, they come multiple times in peace, and it's like, just let us in. We understand everything that's happened up to this point. We're going to forgive you.
The UN is where they declare the war,
the second time.
The second time.
Yeah.
The first time, it's actually the humanoid male and female robots show up and say, we're willing to basically forgive everything you've done and beating the heads off the one, but they deny him. They're like, yeah, screw you, you're a robot, go back to your stupid city. And then they start raging war on him. The humans do. They actually kind of make the first move and start trying to kill him.
Well, okay, but they didn't necessarily make the first move because the one robot that gains self-awareness, he ends up, I guess, attacking or...
Well, his owners were going to shut him down, and he said, I didn't want to die, so he killed his owners.
Right.
I guess you could look
at
it.
And they reason that, well, if machines have choice, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and they just massively start destroying them all. Mm-hmm. And then they go, oh, well, your city's prospering. We don't like that. So we're going to attack your city, too. And it's like, whoa, what are you thinking about? You know? Mm-hmm. And of course, that's when they come up with the Operation Dark Storm, and it blots out the sun and all that stuff.
Which is like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the robots are solar powered, so let's get rid of the sun.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but
let's hurt our own vitamin D, and
right, when we live in an ecosystem completely reliant on the sun to grow our food and all of our other things.
Didn't say it was smart.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a last ditch effort that they used as their first ditch.
Basically.
And then, of course, they also show the scenes, and the narrator talks about it, of they're dropping nukes on the city, and it's like, yeah, they don't get radiation burns or flake away like we do.
It would just be a physical explosion.
It would be at the epicenter. Those are dead, but it doesn't affect anything else, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
And congratulations, you can never now tread there.
Yeah.
It's
like the more nukes you use, you're actually hurting yourselves. Okay.
There's going to be a fallout that carries for long distances.
But maybe we didn't see the side where they talked about it being an ideal to wipe out humans to save them from the suffering to come.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe it was intentional.
Yeah. A lot of the machine decisions, they realize that they make better decisions for the humans than the humans do for themselves. They even say that. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we understand better than you what's happening. So now we're making this decision, and you no longer actually get to have a say. We gave you a chance.
The first machine that actually kind of looks like what you see in the movies with all the eyeballs and the tingly bits at the UN for the second time. He even says that. He's like, you are going to surrender your flesh to us. We demand it. Right. And then he just detonates.
He blows up, yeah.
He blows up the UN, and it's like,
whoops.
It's basically, you join us, or... you're dead. You don't have an option.
There's not an or anymore.
It's like, you screwed up. This is your reality now.
Yeah. We just took the decision away from you.
And yeah, it's like what Lance said. It's strange because the first movie, you don't give a shit about what the robots or the machines want. It's the Animatrix starts showing you more of the fact that the machines might have emotions and thoughts of their own, and it's like, well, yeah, the Matrix is bad, but the humans kind of had it coming.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't explain the first one because the machines we see don't talk; they're just machines.
Yeah,
but the prequel machines that they show were all like, hey, androids that talk, and they're humanoid looking
on us. Yeah. It's only when they separate themselves from humanity that they start getting that
become monsters,
insecty look.
Well, and it's not even that they become monsters; it's that they
their appearance they don't look human. They look like
because they're
evolving.
They're shirking. Yeah. They're shirking the human look because they're like, well, I don't want to wear that face because that face is the face of betrayal.
Mm.
Ironically, until the end of the third movie, but
exactly. So, and then, from there we jump into the kid's story,
whose literal name in the whole universe is Kid.
Kid.
Well, he does have a name at the end. You see his gravestone. I can't remember his full name. All I remember is it's Mr. Popper.
Yeah.
In the movie?
In the Animatrix.
Oh, really?
The kid that we see at the end of Revolution is the same kid that jumped.
Yeah.
The only reason I remember that is because the teacher always going, Mr. Popper.
It's Michael Carl Popper.
Okay.
Is his real name.
Oh, yeah.
Name just Kid.
Yep.
And this is way before
Boy. That's his code name.
Kid.
But so he...
speak.
He, like Neo, spends all of his time at his computer. Mm-hmm. And I think in the story originally he's like 14 or 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that.
And so he starts feeling like, well, there's something more to this reality. And most of it is because he keeps having nightmares. And
of him falling.
He's falling. And then he wakes up and he has that recurrent theme that we heard Morpheus ask Neo, have you ever had a dream that was so real that you didn't know which was real and which was fake?
Yeah.
Well, so the kid actually says, I've been having these dreams, and
he even asks,
the dreams seem more real than even my real life.
And that's, he ends up really accidentally contacting Neo.
Right.
He's just throwing it out there, somehow gets in contact with Neo, and Neo actually has a great line in that I love using to this day, where it's, there's some fiction in your truth.
And
there's some truth in your fiction.
Right. And I think, that is the response to when Neo is on the phone at the end of the first one and saying, I'm going to show these people what you don't want me to show them. This kid is sitting there at his computer. He's like the first one who's reached out.
Yeah. Well, and it's so strange because they kind of talk about it at the end of his story, that he's doing all this on his own.
Right.
He is literally pulling himself out of the Matrix without any help. He's only talking to Neo on the computer. He never sees him.
Yeah, he doesn't know if he's real. He just...
Well, I think he knows.
He knows in his gut, but he doesn't know for sure.
Yeah, it's just he's never met anyone.
He's taking just like the short implied, he's taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Well, a literal leap of faith.
Yeah.
He throws himself off the damn building.
Yeah, because he just...
And
he's
he
surrounded by
dies,
agents.
quote unquote dies.
Which is odd when you think about it. It's like, he's sitting at the top of the building, and it's like, you're a crazy son of a bitch going, you know what? Yeah, these dreams are real, and I'm just going to kill myself.
Unplug, yeah.
But if the dreams are real, he escapes. If they're not real...
He's dead, yeah.
He
escapes.
He escapes either way.
But, and it's, as far as the Matrix universe is concerned, there is a weird difference with him that everybody else who gets pulled out, as you kind of see with Neo, or anyone who gets pulled out of the phone, that image disintegrates. With the kid, he falls and hits the pavement, and they have a funeral, which implies that there was a body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If there was no body, they would not have had a barrel. It's like his body is dead, and he completely disconnected from his body.
I think he's not able to get back into the Matrix.
That's what I've always wondered, is he might not.
Yeah, because we never see him
they
jack back in at all.
No, and they mention that...
they didn't think it was possible.
He achieved self-substantiation, which is also alluded to in the world record thing, where he was breaking through his own mind to discover that reality is not what it is.
Yeah, and those are the only two to successfully... Well, the kid successfully does it. The sprint guy just
he does it, and then they catch him in the act.
Yeah.
Brainwash him.
Yeah.
Which I think that is
crazy.
the next story in the thing was world record. Or it was close. And it's a real interesting story. The kind of the overarching thing of just him being a runner and all that, I could take or leave.
After Kid's story was Program.
Oh yeah.
Which is the
samurai
program.
Dude, that was one of my favorite ones.
That one's pretty good. And I like that it's a weird test. That she's being tested and doesn't even realize she's being tested.
Because the program is that in depth.
Yeah.
And so they're testing her on her
it's not even... Yeah, it's not even her... you kind of get a feeling that they're lovers as well.
Right.
It's not even him. It's programmed to look like him, sound like him, and it's like he's trying to convince her to...
And it seems like she doesn't even know she's jacked in. And she's making these decisions in real time, and they're monitoring her responses and her actions.
It seems like she knows she's jacked in, because she tries calling. She says, like, get me out of here, and it's like, nobody's listening.
She knows she's jacked in. She doesn't
realize that they've messed with her program.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's basically just another Cypher type story, only he's not actually betraying anybody. It's a test. It's like, are you going to betray me?
Yeah.
It's like, if she said yes, they'd probably pull her out of the system and go, get the hell
it's
out
like
of
it's like a military psych test.
Well, and if
what would you do in the heat of battle?
And the names, I think, were Sis and Duo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like an allusion to the fact that he could be a double agent, and he's trying to get her to switch sides and like, hey, listen, this is already done. you can come with me,
or you can die.
but the machines are coming to wipe out our team, and we have an opportunity to escape. And she's like, no, I will die fighting. And then that's when her team knows, okay,
and that's
she's one of us.
She ends up killing him, or the program version of him, and being pulled out, and then she actually kind of has a freak out moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, this wasn't real? Well, fuck you, and she punches him in the face.
Yeah, she punches him and just walks away.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into a lot of the other things that happened during that scene, but I think it was just more to show that all around the whole of Zion and all of these other places, teams were dealing with
Similar
people who were trying to defect to the machine side, and that they're not only aware of it, but they have things in place to either circumvent or to allow them to catch their traitorous person in the act and basically shut them down. And it's like, okay, well, did they put Cypher through something like that and he passed? It begs a lot of questions.
Because you would think maybe at the beginning Cypher did care, and then it was, like he says, over time he was sick of eating goop, and he was sick of listening to bullshit about the One, which he doesn't believe in, and just said, what the hell with it.
Well, and I mean, yeah, he brings up that whole point. He's like, Jesus, what a mind fuck, huh? Like, you're the One, you're the savior. Like, how do you believe that? And he's like, why didn't I take the blue pill? Or why didn't I take the red pill? I think it was, blue pill. So it's interesting to look at those correlations between what we saw with Neo and his team, and then what we're seeing with Sis and Duo and their team, and then a bunch of these other people from all around the Matrix gaining that quote-unquote self-substantiation, or at least that awareness of, okay, I'm no longer who I thought I was. Both in the machine world and not. And then that, again, jumps over to world record.
Yeah, which we've already talked about. That's just another... He's pulling his own mind out, because he literally runs himself so fast he breaks out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
He finally... I think it's similar to what Morpheus talks about in the first movie, where he's found the ends of the rules, and he's now bending the rules, but for whatever reason, when he does that, he starts seeing the code. You see it in front of him. The letters and numbers start popping up.
Because you can no longer relate to that standard reality. When you realize that the world that you've known for so long is a lie, then you see through it. You see...
But unfortunately...
between the lines, quote-unquote.
I guess because of his previous run, because he ran so fast, I guess the agents were already monitoring him, and it was, okay, you that's fine, you got out, and now we're just going to fry your brain.
Right.
It's... he didn't get out like the kid did and get flushed down the
he's
toilet.
He's stuck in his body now.
Yeah, they pull him back and do the electric beams, and he's a vegetable.
And as a complete aside, well, not necessarily an aside, but that animation style, the way he's running, and just the physicality of that character and all of the other runners and stuff like that, as an artist, I was like, damn, that really pushed to me I could change how I've been drawing humans. I could change and exaggerate.
You feel it, especially like when his one muscle pops. When it swells and it pops, and it's like, ooh, yeah. You can. There's something about it. It's like you can feel that. That's real. That one was good. The end, I really like the end to that. It's not one of my favorite segments.
Where she's pushing him in the wheelchair?
Yeah, and then apparently, it's like for a couple months, he hasn't said anything because he's locked inside his own mind, squeezing his nuts.
I'm like, why is he squeezing nuts?
I don't know. But then he's just like, free, and then stands up and all the bolts are popping off, and then he's back to the way it was. It's like, yeah, he's still in there, but he'll never get out.
Yeah. He's stuck in a
But
perpetual
that's
cycle.
that's the perpetual cycle, and it's the illusion of choice, and a lot of the things that they allude to throughout the series.
So I think the next one was Beyond.
Yes.
Yep.
Which, we talked about, or I said this when we were watching it. Back when it came out, this was one of my least favorites. It's very artsy. It's kind of...
It just follows a bunch of kids playing around, and you don't get a sense of...
It focuses on the weird aspects of the Matrix, not so much
it makes it seem
a particular
like a haunting
story.
and things like that. But what's nice about it is they play with that concept of, okay, well, it's not necessarily just a deja vu scenario that can let you know of the Matrix.
Yeah,
it's hauntings. It's all of these
the
other
kids are
unexplained
playing
phenomena.
Yeah, they're glitched out.
Yeah, they're playing with glitches.
Yeah.
They're actively like...
Yeah, and if you think about it, a system that big, they're even in the far future, you're not always going to be able to monitor your programs.
Yeah.
Even the best well-made games nowadays, there's always going to be a glitch, and someone's going to find the edge or break through. It's just how it is. So it was just this little house that was broken.
I think the big thing there, though, that they're bringing up is the fact that despite these machines having that sentient intelligence and the artificial intelligence necessary to project all of these different possible outcomes, there are still holes. And this is something that we see when, Agent Smith starts talking about how he doesn't understand how Neo can breach these things because they've accounted for literally everything. And even the architect has that conversation with Neo and is like, you don't understand. This has all happened before. It's all going to happen exactly the same way. And Neo's
but
like...
yet Neo's doing the opposite.
Nah, dude.
It's like...
Yeah. And so it's interesting that they're bringing up a lot of these themes within the Animatrix because it's a lot of stuff that people would have probably missed if they didn't go and watch this series.
The only thing that I really latch onto for Beyond was it's the first introduction of the bad doors. You don't see the infamous hallway of infinite doors that's all white, but she opens up a door and it's nothing but blackness, and she starts hearing echoes from earlier in the segment.
Right.
And it's like the kids talking, and it's Neo makes the comment the first time he enters the hallway. He's like, these are all bad doors.
Yeah.
Not all of them probably go everywhere, or they're maintenance hatches or whatever. It's like, that kind of introduces that you could walk through a door and not go where you want to.
And that's what the keymaker says. He's like, there's only 2 doors that actually work to go where you need to go.
Well,
you can walk through any of these other doors, but they're all wrong. Only 2 of them are correct.
Yeah, everything else was like maintenance hatches. That's like, oh, okay, well, you want to go from the restaurant to that swing set park.
Which and we bring up a kind of thing which you said, hearing those echoes of the kids' past and stuff like that. We've experienced that with our cell phone.
Yeah.
We have our own Matrix moment.
Well, but that wasn't the past. We heard the future.
We heard the future. It was
we'll say that for
unreal.
a different time. That was crazy.
We still have our mind blown by that one occasionally. Okay, so after Beyond...
Is it Detective Story?
Yes.
Okay. And that one, the story is whatever. It's a detective story. I love noir things, so I like this one. The thing that stands out is the art.
Yeah,
It's all pencil drawn. I think the only thing that's not really pencil drawn is the flame at the end. When he lights his lighter, it's like, okay, well, that's clearly not a pencil. That looks like that was CG on top of the drawing. But
I don't know. I mean, they could have done it with color pencil.
it doesn't look the
doesn't
same
look,
as the
yeah.
rest of
Yeah,
it.
that's true. It doesn't have
think that was a
gritty
pretty
kind
effect.
of... Yeah.
It's too clean.
And I think what I liked about that was the guy's name is Ash.
Yeah.
He was a detective, and Amber and I watched the hell out of Burn Notice. The guy that, from, which is Walking Dead.
Evil Dead.
Or Evil Dead. Oh my god, I'm gonna get so much backlash on that.
Yes.
The Evil Dead, Ash and the Evil Dead. I'm like, oh hey, it's Ash. He's back.
The cool thing about that was it was like, there's Trinity again. It kind of similar to a kid's story when Neo showed up, and Trinity, I guess she shows up in that one as well. But it kind of gave credence that this isn't a standalone thing. This is part of the same universe. She's not always attached to Neo's side. She has her own little missions. The only difference was why they're trying to extract him. And it was a big question in the first movie that people raised after a while is, well, if they know Neo's going to be taken to Morpheus, why don't they just take Neo over because he's still plugged in?
Right.
And this is exactly what happens. Trinity's trying to extract the detective, and an agent starts coming into him, and she goes, "Oh, well, shit, I can't take you with me," and puts a bullet in him.
Kablow! Yeah, just completely lights him up after removing a bug from his eye.
Yeah, so he's not even being tracked.
Freakier than it being pulled from a belly button.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, so he's not even being tracked, but he still loses and basically sacrifices himself for her to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that leads into the last one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh, with the creepy robot?
Oh dear God. Animation style, absolutely amazing. I love the animation.
Story is weird
It's matriculated.
and uncomfortable.
Peter Chung has got some things going on inside his head. And apparently one of them is that all the machines want to
sex the humans.
But,
they explored that concept in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, they did.
And so it begs the question, were the Wachowskis or Peter Chung kind of channeling some of...
The miniseries came later in 2003.
True, but a lot of the stuff from Caprica had that lore to begin with.
Yeah.
Or the original Battlestar had some of those things.
Yeah.
So it's not unfathomable.
But yeah, it's basically just a story of this girl's trying to trap a robot, and they're not even reprogramming it. They're trying to trick the robots in their own isolated matrix to switch sides.
Yeah, to joining
basically
their side.
Trying to trick them, going, oh, these are your machine brethren. They're just here to kill everything.
They're
Join
evil.
us.
We're good.
And he does switch. His eyes do go green, which is the symbol throughout the series of the machines going good.
Which takes people a while to learn.
Yeah, it took me forever to realize
it's such a subtle difference, but there you go, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, he's switched, he's decided to join them, and his eyes are no longer red.
Yeah.
And you can completely blink past that.
Yeah, you may not even notice. But unfortunately, this machine... he doesn't attach himself to humanity, he attaches himself to the girl. I can't even remember her name.
Alexa, actually.
Okay. Triggering all your devices.
Come on, Amazon. Stop copying the Matrix. And can we please add please and thank yous to our commands with the Alexa app?
Yeah.
It would make it a lot better for the robot revolution.
Yeah, seriously. I enjoy showing my robot manners.
Yeah.
Because
she gets rude to you if you don't.
Well, yeah.
Because then when the robots do take over, maybe we'll be spared and be used as living slaves.
You'll be spared for the upcoming
as my pet,
robot revolution.
I did get really upset at Alexa one time, and I told her to shut the fuck up, and she was like, hey, there's no need to be rude. And I was like...
So you do not embrace your new robot overlord.
It was only one time, and it was because she kept ignoring me.
Yeah. But yeah, this machine decides he's really attached to her, and when the machines come and just start attacking their base, he kind of helps for a little bit, but he doesn't. All the crew's being slaughtered around him. He doesn't care about the rest of the crew. All he cares about is Alexa.
One. Yeah.
And at the end, she's knocked unconscious, and he forcefully plugs her back in the Matrix, goes in himself, because he wants to sex the humans, and she rejects him. She outright rejects him, screams, somehow removes herself from that location, but it even pans out, and they're still plugged in.
Yeah.
For all time, she's plugged into the Matrix, can never leave, and she's trapped inside with this basically sex fiend robot.
And she's paralyzed. Like, oops. That's some pretty dark
fucked up.
shit.
Yeah, it's screwed up. I didn't like it when it first came out. I still really don't like it now.
It was the only one that I didn't understand
What they were trying to say.
at first.
Yeah.
But now I understand it. Was the final evolution of the machines was to conquer love and the idea of love and procreation.
And this one doesn't quite get it.
And right, but it might be where the idea spawned for them trying to find that elsewhere in the Matrix, because you got to remember the Sentinels are all jacked into an overarching neural
Hive
network,
mind,
the hive mind, and so if he has experienced this crazy new emotion at the hands of his captors, what is being transmitted back?
Yeah,
And up until he turns, everything is being transmitted back of his own volition. He has to hit a switch to shut that off.
Yeah. Now, before we move on from this segment and actually the Animatrix as a whole, let's touch on one last thing in that segment that... Why? The little monkey.
Oh yeah.
That poor monkey.
He's in pain the whole time.
He's like holding his stomach like he's just gonna take a shit.
Most plants, most animals, basically everything is dead, but for some reason they have this pet monkey that has a plug in the back of its head and can be jacked in. And like you said, every time when they go into the Matrix, he's holding his gut going, "Ah!" and runs away in pain. It's like, the hell is going on?
It's probably his biological system rejecting the programming of the Matrix. Mm-hmm. Because the Matrix was specifically designed for humans, and the human brainwaves.
That makes sense.
Right? And they're saying, okay, well, the chimp isn't necessarily as evolved, so all of this stuff is fucking with his neurocognizance, and it's messing with
So the humans, they're jacking him in,
bowels.
or killing him,
basically,
inadvertently.
But it looked like actually at one point he was completely compliant with it. Like they showed him on his own platform, standing there, and he's just kind of like, okay, this is nothing new under the sun.
But he's also living in a jar.
Right, and then as soon as he's in the Matrix, he's like, like, wait, what is this doing?
Yeah, the monkey does live in a jar, though. So remember that.
Yeah, and
he doesn't run around in the real world.
Right, so he was an experimentation.
Yeah.
And it begs the question: where does that necessarily fall in the timeline of the overall series? Maybe it's a precursory one where they started dabbling with the idea of turning the machines and realized, okay, well, we can turn them, but it's going to go down a much darker path. And then
it being the only animal in the whole Matrix series that we ever see is kind of weird.
Yeah. So it'd have to be really early on, I think, in the.
But even within that episode, he's the only animal, period.
It could be set even before a bunch of the reboots.
Exactly.
Because their base, you can tell it's a crashed hover ship of some sort. Because its ass end is sticking up and you see the little hover pads.
And they're on
a lake. They're up on the surface.
There's still land. There's still vegetation. There's still a little bit.
But it's still futuristic because instead of being like in a chair, they're just sitting on these pads. Like it's like a Japanese. It's like a tea room, like cushion. They're just like sitting on these, getting jacked in.
But it looks more primitive than what we've seen in a lot of the movies. Amber?
I was just gonna say it's a very Japanese thing to have cushions rather than chairs. I don't think that implies any time setting.
But it's so weird though that like everyone else in the whole series has to be laying down in this weird chair. Yeah, and
they're just kind of like standing, or no, they're sitting on the pads.
Yeah, because because if they get hit or something, they're gonna like fall over.
Yeah.
Or something.
Unless the ship, didn't you just say it was a crashed ship?
It was a stationary thing. They're probably not used to being attacked. It was probably That's what I'm saying. It's probably way earlier in the series.
Okay.
Yeah, because the fact they're on the surface near the water, it's like
it's still a stationary base.
I'm wondering if it's before, like one of the first
that was probably
versions.
that was probably one of the very 1 through
because it's
6.
also a different style of Sentinel than we've seen in the past.
Yeah,
or in the actual Matrix movies, they're mainly the squiddies.
Right.
this was some sort of, they called it a runner, and it was not a squiddy.
Right,
It's
they had spindly legs.
Yeah,
and
it's like, I wonder if it was an early version.
Kind of like an in-between of the humanoids that we saw.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the early prototypes
the early
for
episodes, and then,
the Sentinels.
Yeah, then the squiddies that we have
And I
in
can't...
the Matrix films, so this is like the in-between phase.
And I can't remember, it may have been in this segment. There is a segment in the Animatrix, I want to touch on this because I want to bring it back when we start getting into the sequels. I brought this up, I had never noticed this as much as I had watched these movies. It might be in Osiris. There's a shot where they're hovering over a bunch of platforms, and they look exactly like the crisscrossing bridges in Zion.
Yeah.
There's the same shot of Zion when they're looking down, it's all the different levels. Mm-hmm. There's a shot in the Animatrix where you see a destroyed, like, it looks like a destroyed city of those types of bridges. So I started thinking, I'm like, well, it does make sense that if they have to dig down and destroy Zion, they're not going to necessarily fill those holes up when they create the next one. So it's actually easier if we destroy this one and move you to another location. So I'm actually wondering if they...
Well, and think about it. They even call it maintenance tunnels and things like that get to the surface of Zion. That means the machines know they're there. Plus, you look at the construction and everything like that, none of these humans were building those things. They were all machine built.
Yeah.
And so
it was the machines... It's from the old cities.
Yeah, it was the machines going, okay, well, we already know how this is going to go. We came in here, we destroyed it, we rebuilt it, we put a couple of humans back in here to repopulate.
Yeah, but I'm starting to wonder, thinking about it all these years later, I bet it's not the same Zion. I bet it's... Well, here's this Zion. We destroyed that one. We'll fix this one up over time. We're moving you over here for the next 100 years. We'll destroy that one, and then maybe we'll move you back over here. But it's like, the fact that they had to drill down, getting into the sequels, they had to drill down to the city, and there weren't already created drill holes, is like, either you haven't tried drilling before and you're trying a new method, or this is a new location.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact they show that same setup of bridges in the Animatrix, I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh god, Zion. We have seen a previous Zion, and no one even realizes it.
Yep. When you proposed that originally, I went back through my memory of the entire series, and I was like, oh, son of a bit.
Because they just say, it's like, oh, these are destroyed cities.
They don't say
they wouldn't necessarily recognize this is another Zion, because it would just be like, well, we're building our city like we know how to. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't recognize, oh, this looks identical to what we're already building. They may not connect the dots.
Yeah.
So.
And it begs the question, how much of the mental programming from when they were inside the Matrix as part of the power sources, if you will, all of the stuff that was being fed to them mentally, how much of that was being uploaded that was, how much was being fed to them that was construction plans and like, oh, hey, when you get out of here, you're going to go do this.
Well, we briefly talked about it when we watched the third movie. How much do the elders know? The first people to ever be pulled out after a reboot cycle, because that's the whole point of the one, is he goes back to the mainframe, he picks, I think, 10 individuals or 15 individuals, something like that, and goes and builds the city. If he's pulling them out and dumping them in this city, granted, he could feed them whatever lie they wanted, but they're gonna start noticing things are going wrong.
Right.
And it's like, well, why are you dumping me in this city full of nobody else but us? This is strange,
Yeah. How did we become those that were free or whatever?
Yeah, it's like I wonder, because I think they even said you can choose a couple from the Matrix, and maybe he even says you can choose a couple from Zion. I'm not sure. But it's like, if you picked one from Zion, they would know exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of allusion to the fact that some people know more than they're letting on.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
getting into
Back to
sequels.
Well, I think that takes us to the game, right?
Yeah.
Take us to Enter the Matrix.
And we'll-
with Niobe.
We'll rush through the game.
We'll
as
let
much
you
as
handle
possible.
this one.
Niobe
'cause
and Ghost, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience this when I was younger. I just didn't have access to any of it. So having to sit there and watch the playthrough and everything was pretty fascinating. And the story and realizing that was more to Niobe and Ghost before we met them in
The movies,
Reloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let you take on
but
that.
The game, for all its importance, really the only important bits are the first 2 levels and then like the last 2 or 3 levels. Most of the game, the game starts and ends, or the game starts before and ends after Reloaded. So usually when I do a marathon, I like to do it before I watch the sequels. But the only real importance is they're the ones who go to the post station and find Thaddeus's message. And then obviously the police are aware that Thaddeus left something, so it's almost a trap. They know what it. I'm almost positive they know exactly what's in the package. They're just waiting to see who picks it up, and they'll take off and take out another human. She gets that message back to Zion, and they call the famous meeting from Matrix Reloaded with all the captains.
Yep.
But in order to do that, there's this weird discussion of, well, how do we make that many phone calls without being detected? Oh, well, let's go to the airport because there's phones all over the place. And while they're making these phone calls, another one of the captains just coincidentally happens to be there. He's been captured. They're pulling the whole Morpheus scenario from the first movie. He's going to be drugged, and they're going to try and get the codes. So they try to go after him, and they save him, and, we get my least favorite mission in the whole fucking game, where you gotta kick an agent out of the airplane.
Oh god, that was so
That was
hilarious to
great.
watch.
10 minutes.
So good.
10 minutes of
He
trying
kept
over and
kicking
over.
him
shooting.
into the hatch, that little piston that held the
Well, you overshot
hatch
one of
open.
them.
Yeah, I overshot one of them and fell
Oh,
out
it
of the
fell
airplane.
right out on the last kick. Just goes. He kicks the agent
He's
and then
right
follows
on
him
the
out.
edge. He's right on the edge, kicks him. Yeah, I kick him out, kill him, but I start falling as well. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, your force
I
was
hate
so
that
strong it
level.
carried you right out. We laughed our asses
It was so
off.
good. It was a great time
But
watching that.
that then just flows into the movie, and then, her path is crisscrossing with the movie timelines. Like, that was kind of the whole point of the game was, their stories happening alongside them. This is how Niobe got behind the semi-truck, which was one of the most boring levels in video game. You literally just drive up a highway.
Is that the one where you said you can drive forever and not actually?
You can drive and almost never encounter any enemies.
That's
in,
crazy.
In certain instances, it's supposed to be a bunch of cops and agents are attacking you. Sometimes the game just kind of glitches and they'll get stuck behind other cars or whatever, and you'll never see an enemy the whole time you play. And
it's also not nearly as populated.
yeah,
as
it's not as
the movie.
populated as the movie, so it gets boring.
But the cutscenes where it's actually the cinematic ones.
Yes,
with
the live actions
film
are great.
ones that lead us into the initial meeting on the
Zion.
In the
on the
sewers.
Logos, I think it was, right? Or no, oh yeah, they were meeting in the sewers within the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a officer meeting in Zion.
right. And that too, they discovered that there was a mole.
Yeah,
Somebody else other than Cypher. And I think this is where that original stuff in the Animatrix was alluding to the fact that they were starting
the
to root
agents-
out who were the bad agents among them.
Yeah, the agents knew they were there. I don't know if they ever explicitly say who ratted them out or why they knew they were there. The agents just knew they were there. And then they escape. There's a whole chateau level where, it's the one part of the game that pisses me off is you run into the Keymaker and he just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. You freed me, but yeah, we're not meant to meet yet, so I'm just going to go back in my cage." It's like, then why be here? Just
Right.
cut this level out,
Right. I think it was just to pique your interest.
It was. It was for the people who played the movie and was like, oh, I want to play the Chateau. That's all it was.
Yeah, and I think I would have liked to have watched that portion of the game. We ended up skipping through.
Yeah, we skipped through till the important parts.
And going, Amber asked for the Cliff's Notes.
Yeah.
Because she was like, okay, we can't sit here for a full 3 hours just watching Fry Game.
Yeah,
the load times are killing me.
Yeah, the load times on that game are horrendous.
And it was just running down hallways. So
the one time that it glitched out and he had to completely restart was pretty
it glitched out and I had to go back to the main menu, and it was just like, you know what, to hell with this, we're just going to watch the cutscenes and the important bits.
I think Rich that was where we first started seeing Rich fall asleep.
Yeah.
Yep, I was like, nope.
But
I'm out.
The only other really important part of the game is you see them destroy the nuclear reactor as part of Morpheus's mission. And the moment they exit, Sparks comments, who's their operator, he comments, well, I don't know what the hell you did. Nothing's happening. And immediately gets a call from Seraph. It's like, yeah, we realize you're in the middle of something. You need to come see the Oracle. Now.
Yeah.
And she meets with the Oracle, and that's when she kind of hints at the fact, you're going to have to give up your ship or help Neo in some way. It's important to understand kind of why she gives them the ship in 3, other than basically giving a finger to Roland saying, fuck you, I'll do what I want with my ship.
Well, right, because Roland was such a staunch, like, he just couldn't see past his own ego.
No. But, so that level
and
is
the military
really
hero complex.
Yeah. So that level is important. When she leaves, that's when she encounters Smith, and you start seeing, because this takes place after Reloaded, you start seeing, as the level implies, it's called The Virus Spreads, and he is just spreading like crazy through the city. He's taking over everything. And then, of course, the game ends where the machines find them, and they launch the bomb at their ship, and it disables their ship, and they crash until we find them in Revolutions. It's one of those I recommend to anyone who's a fan. Search out the game, play the game. It's horribly dated now.
Well, even if not, I mean, go watch the cinematic breakouts on YouTube.
Yeah, I would.
And didn't you say there was a version of Reloaded that had somebody already cut in the scenes and stuff like that where they belong?
There's a bunch of fan edits where they cut in the live action scenes. So Reloaded actually doesn't start with the Trinity fall. It starts with Enter the Matrix scenes. And then where they needed to, they cut out the Enter the Matrix scenes.
And I think that's something that, had I been aware of it, I probably would have sought that out to begin with. I was just so disconnected.
Yeah, you're unplugged, man. So that's going to lead us into the actual final 2 movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's all just one big movie.
Yeah, we pick up at, Zion?
You actually pick up with Neo's dream.
Of Trinity falling and getting shot.
Yeah.
Reloaded starts where he's having
so
that
much in that
premonition.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's being chased by the agent and jumps out the window, which is a really cool shot.
It's a cool scene, yeah.
It's basically, hey, look at my computers, but...
Yeah.
You know.
So, yeah, we see that, then...
And
he wakes up in Zion.
No, he wakes up on the Neb.
Okay, yeah.
And they're going towards the meeting that Niobe called.
That's right.
And then that's when we first get the hint that something's wrong, because Smith shows up at the door.
Yeah, and he's unplugged.
Yeah, he even comments, he's like, oh, you know, I've just got a package for Neo. And,
tell him to set him free.
Yeah, and the guy at the door's like, yeah, whatever, fuck off. And somehow Neo takes that as, oh shit, well, agents are coming.
Well, yeah, because he opened it up and he had the agent earpiece.
Yeah, so just, I guess, luckily, real agents do show up, and he beats the living shit out of them. In their upgrades.
And that's another indication of the strong symbology, where he presents him with the only thing that Neo needs to understand, which is, hey, I'm not bound by this earpiece, which is what connected me to the mainframe in the first place. I am now free, and I'm coming for you.
Yep. Well, and that's how that scene ends, is after he beats the crap, basically kills the agents, all the captains have fled, he does his Superman thing and takes off. You see the two Smiths talking to each other. It's like, oh, well, it's happening exactly as last time. Well, not exactly. Which kind of alludes to Smith's been around for a couple reboots, too.
In some iteration or another.
So he knows about that, what's coming. That's when they start getting back to Zion. You start seeing things that they only have alluded to in the first movie. And over the years, I've heard a lot of complaints that people like, similar to what Rich said, you're in it for the fight sequences and the action. You don't care about Zion, you don't care about all this extra stuff, but it's like, I like the fact that, you're having sequels take place away from the Matrix.
They're expanding on more exposition.
You're not burnt out on, the stupid green code and all that garbage.
I think for me, though, I care about Zion, but it's just such a random jump to its existence that I get lost as to, well, where the fuck did this even come from?
Yeah. Without the even with the Animatrix,
they needed to drop a little bit more commentary. Like, we need to get to Zion in the original Matrix, rather than it just suddenly appeared. And oh, by the way, this is the 6th iteration. Mm-hmm. It's like, where the fuck did all this come from?
Well, they explained that at the end.
So it's just a really awkward timeline that they needed to allude to earlier.
Yeah, I think had the studio probably pushed them. Because there's still the mindset even now that movies got to be 2 to 2.5 hours, and
that's
probably the
3-hour movie.
Matrix Reloaded is only 2.5.
Really?
Or like 2 hours 19 minutes.
I remember they pushed it. I remember being in the theater going, "Wait, isn't this supposed to be over by now?"
And I feel like the story they wanted to tell should have been longer. Mm-hmm. By that point in time, we had already had a couple the Lord of the Rings movies. Audiences were used to sitting in a theater for over 3 hours.
We were getting trained for it, yeah.
It's like, you could have just kind of told Warner Brothers to piss off and make the movie you wanted to, but they condensed it, made it more action-y, and it ended up working, just not how I think everybody wanted. But
yeah.
I can agree with that.
I will say, whoever dreamt up, the cave orgy,
there were some drugs.
They need to be punished in some way, because that, to me, I'm okay with Zion showing up, because they do talk about it a little bit in the first movie, and I think Tank even says, "Hey, if the war was over, that's where the party's going to be at."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're seeing a party scene.
But the war's not over.
But the party scene is like 7 or 8 minutes long. It just kind of drags. It's like, I don't like the music. I don't really care about.
Well, wasn't it because they're trying to repopulate?
Yeah, that's a portion of it, because they'd gotten word.
They're all getting sexy.
They gotten word that
the machines are coming.
The machines were on the move, and so they realized, oh crap, we basically have to create as much possible population as we can, so that if the majority of us get annihilated, we're already making this. We're taking the steps to repopulate.
Well, and I think Morpheus even says, is like, the big reason for all the ruckus is, if they hear us down here, then they know we're not afraid of them.
Well, yeah, and so talking about kind of going back to our first episode and bringing up biblical references and stuff like that, this is very much a Sodom and Gomorrah type thing, where they're just going all out, having sex, and it's basically orgy in nature, and they're all going at it. But
and the salt squids are coming.
It's also that biblical repopulation statement. So you have the perception that, okay, this is a really terrible thing, and they need to be wiped out because they're just fornicating, carelessly and everything like that. But then there's that secondary aspect that some people have latched onto, where it's like, no, this is survival.
Yeah.
And you have to be passionate about it, and you have to be in the mood. So they're all You can tell some of them were on some sort of drug or something like that.
Oh yeah, they're all extras.
Yeah, they're like, ah!
So I think they're all Kiwi extras or whatever. And I think
they didn't even tell him what was going on.
I think I think in the behind the scenes they were just asking for like a couple hundred extras and just said we're gonna have a party, and that's all it was. It's like I don't think they knew until they started saying action. It's like, okay, you're in Zion, just go wild,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're talking about Zion. What also happens before the next part, after the fight with the agents in Zion, Bane.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
because it's
your first
actually,
allusion to the fact that Smith has escaped.
Well, they show it. They just outright show it.
They show it.
Yeah,
Because takes over Bane as he's going through the
as
film.
everybody's falling asleep after the party. That's the next shot is Bane crashing through the skylight. His friend gets out with the message from the Oracle, and then Smith comes in and infects Bane, and then you see that kind of look they're giving each other, like, oh wait, the operator is asking for me to get out. All I have to do is just pick up the phone, and he's like, "No, I'm out."
Yeah,
it's definitely the evolution of that character. I mean, he's only shown up one time previously, hasn't done anything, and now he's already out. He hasn't even gone after Neo yet. He's out.
Yeah.
And they do show that, like what you're saying, in Zion. Once Smith is out and he's in his human form, he does, because of what he talks about in the first movie, where he doesn't quite understand his body. He's cutting it and...
he's just testing it.
Yeah,
he's doing all these random things on himself.
And it's what he says is like, this body is weak and it's too weak to survive. But
it begs a question: if he did those experiments on himself, wouldn't he then understand what pain was? And oh crap, this is what I've been doing to these people. Like, to me, I was just a program.
But
I was inflicting these things.
He doesn't care though.
Is that experience, because that experience is new to him?
Does it feel the same as it does to everybody else?
Because as a human, you're grown up, and it is because how your brain is wired. That pain is bad. For Smith, he's never felt pain like a human, so maybe that's just a new experience, and he goes, that was an interesting sensation. I want to feel it again. And he cuts himself again and goes,
Well, actually, as a weird thing, they kind of bring that same theme up in Gravity Falls when Bill Cipher takes over Dipper's body. And Bill Cipher is this sentient being from another universe, and he takes over Dipper's body, and he just, starts stabbing himself with a fork and, closing his hand in dresser drawers and stuff like that. He's like, this thing's squishy! And, just stabbing and poking himself, and he's like...
understand.
He pours soda into his eyeballs, and, they go bloodshot and stuff like that. But he's completely, on the outward aspect, unaffected by it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
It could be.
I can... Okay. Weird that I had to pull a cartoon, to get that, but...
This segment definitely addresses a concern that Rich brought out in our first part when you were talking about the crane game, and why would a machine be helping the humans and all this. There's a whole conversation Neo has with the Councilman Hammond, and they go down to the sub-basement. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you were sleeping during this segment of the movie.
Not it. I was awake.
But I love this segment because there's a lot of banter between the two of, you're trying to make a point. And he's like, oh, I'm too old to make a point. But, he points over to the machine over there and he's like, I know that machine has something to do with our water supply.
Right.
And Neo makes the connection, goes, so what you're trying to say is we need machines and they need us.
It's the co-reliance.
Yeah. But the
or
whole
codependence.
Thing, the whole thing is Neo goes, the difference is these machines aren't sentient. If we wanted to, we could smash them to bits. And it's like, yeah, but if we did that,
we'd be out of water supply.
We're out of water, we're out
Yeah.
of heat, So why would these machines help them? Even sentient ones, why would they help them? It's like, well,
because they realize
if we die, they die. If they die, we die. It's
It's a fucked up ecosystem.
Oh God, they're codependent.
They are.
yes,
They're dependent on human flesh.
that was Rick and Morty. Oh God, that's amazing.
So yeah, this then in Zion, of course, they know the machines are coming, and then Neo goes to fly off to the Oracle.
Yep. The last time you see the original Oracle. But
Yeah.
before that, he has that really awesome fight scene in the tea house. With,
Yeah.
It's the first time in the films that
Seraph.
we're introduced to Seraph, who, on a side note, in the expanded universe, they talk about that he used to be a agent of the Merovingian. But even before that, he, as his name implies, he was an angel. Like, he would show up, I believe, in the Paradise Matrix as kind of like this guardian angel type. He was like that version's agents. And when that version of the Matrix was shut down, the Merovingian and a bunch of these exiles came over after the Paradise and Nightmare Matrix were destroyed. Those were the first exiles, was the Merovingian and his crew, and then Seraph came over and worked for him.
Well, and that also plays to the fact that, again, somebody has to leave the original Matrix with enough knowledge to boot up the next one. And so these are those guys.
Well, they're on the outside. The architect and the Oracle...
But are they looking in?
Yeah. But
Sorry.
the architect and the Oracle is actually who creates... You could call it the third Matrix, but it's the start of the Matrix as we know it.
Right.
It's the Matrix of choice.
Of perceived choice.
Yeah. Well, they're aware of it, if only at the unconscious level. So yeah, we're introduced to Seraph, and he does his whole little thing that it's strangely bullshit for a movie. It's just to get a fight sequence in, but it is a cool line. It's like, you do not truly know someone until you fight them.
Yeah, you got to get discount Jet Li's moves in there.
Yeah. Hey, come on, he's awesome.
He's cool, but he's discount Jet Li.
And I don't blame that on him.
No,
I blame that on the directors. Or whoever the
apparently he's like a buddy with them because he's done a couple of their movies.
Yeah, and maybe even Jet Li was like, "Hey, I'll choreograph it."
The role I don't think was made for him. It's just that
Jet Li wasn't involved.
He looks like him, and he has a similar fighting style.
Very similar.
And even like has the slow patience and the cadence, the way he speaks.
That's just very much the culture, though.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he takes Neo to the Oracle.
Oracle, yeah. At the park.
The original, well, not the original, because reboots and everything, but the Oracle as we know her.
As we see her before she smoked herself to death.
Yeah, she's smoking herself to death.
In real life.
And she's real sarcastic, kind of like we know her, but...
Yeah.
And, she starts... she doesn't... She explains, and then she doesn't explain kind of what's going on, because the whole point of Neo going to her is, please tell me what these dreams are. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And she's like, really?
You already know.
You should have already figured this out by now, which alludes to everyone knows more that they're letting on, and that some of this shit has happened before. It's like, why would you think he should already know this?
Yeah,
right.
And then she name drops a lot of people in that scene. So
yeah,
talks about the source.
Yeah.
So find the keymaker.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
First instruction.
The source is the source.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like go get the keymaker.
Go find the keymaker, who's in the house of
the Merovingian.
Who then, obviously, then in the scene, we know those two names, and we see them later in Revolution as well. Well, no, at least the Merovingian in Revolution, he carries over. Keymaker's only in this movie. And then, of course, yeah. Who shows up?
Yep.
In the park.
It's like right as the Oracle leaves, though technically the Oracle doesn't leave of her own volition. Seraph definitely gets
instructs her.
He gets like this weird look on his face and goes, "We gotta go."
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of know that he senses someone's coming.
Yeah, and then Smith shows up.
Smith shows up and has just an absolute amazing monologue with Neo. You go,
Because of you,
You're aware
I'm
of
no
it.
longer an agent of the system. Because of you, I've changed. I'm unplugged. A new man, so to speak.
Like you, apparently.
free. And I'm reading that, and you memorize that shit, so well done.
Well, yeah, to put it in a strange perspective, I recite that line to myself sometimes in the bathroom with the same cadence. I actually do like the same hand motions because there's a scene, part of the scene is, well, you're aware of it, our connection, and I do the same like hand motions and
you guys may not be seeing this, but he's doing it right now,
Yeah.
showing us.
and even though I don't have sunglasses on, like I move my eyebrows around because he's like, I'm not quite sure how it happens. Some part of you imprinted onto me, something overwritten. And then, like, he starts cocking his head. It's like, I know that scene so well. It's... And it, like Lance said, anytime that man speaks, you gravitate towards him.
Mm-hmm.
The whole movie... Well, maybe not the whole movie, but most of that movie could just be him speaking in front of a monitor, and it'd probably be riveting.
Not wrong. Yeah.
Imagine him being the narrator from Princess Bride.
That'd be hilarious.
I want to see the director's cut.
Somebody go do that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're off to see the Keymaker.
Well,
Yeah,
you're jumping a little bit.
there's a little bit of...
A little bit.
I mean, they have
But
the whole
but
scene
this
in the
is the
restaurant
first-
with the Merovingian
Yeah.
and his
This-
girl.
This scene introduces Neo to the fact that Smith is everywhere. There's a shit ton of them. Things have changed. And he was getting his ass handed to him. He was about to die until he did the Superman thing. He cheated.
Yeah, yeah.
He cheated. Instead of beating him, he flew away like a little bitch. You know, let's be honest.
Hey, I mean, there's something to be said for live to fight another day.
Nah. We don't like to reference that horrible Bond movie.
A smart man knows when to walk
All right, so
away.
Neo runs away like a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Then
they go fly away. Like
they
a
Fly away like a
Yeah,
bitch.
so on their quest, like you said, to get the Keymaker, they
Which
make
takes us to the Merovingian.
and
And
it seems like
pie.
everybody hates this guy.
I fucking hate him.
Like most people who've seen the movie hate him. Even like the fans of the series hate him.
He's French. That's why.
I love
Wow. We apologize to any of our French listeners
Yeah.
out there. We have no listeners at present, but if
I'm
you
about
are
to say.
French and you later stumble
I'm about to
across
say,
this
yeah.
podcast, I retroactively apologize on...
But I will say, I love this
My
character.
God.
I absolutely...
Come on, people.
I absolutely love this character.
It's a fucking joke.
There's something about him where he is like the old wise man, but he's evil.
He knows way too... What makes me hate him is that he knows way too much. He knows he knows way too much.
I know, and it's great.
And he's right.
But
He's not wrong.
That,
me. That's why I like it.
and that is the direct
But he also he
personification.
dresses like a rich guy. I think he reminds me too much like a banker.
Yeah. But that's the direct personification of the statement that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. So he is. He is the top of everybody on the food chain. He knows this.
His trophy wife,
is
yeah.
a Merovingian.
And he has the vampires and the werewolves in his employ.
Yeah,
And he has
basically
this,
any of the leftovers from the Nightmare Matrix, he scooped up and went, I can use these guys.
and he has this gorgeous woman, right? Monica Bellucci.
Yep, Persephone.
And but completely still goes after some other chick just because he can do it.
Yeah, because he can. It's strange. It's like he is a dick, but I just absolutely love him. He just oozes charisma, and I love every minute of it. He's who I want to be. But the other part of that, kind of in the expanded universe, is it's theorized quite a bit that he was the original OS for the Paradise and Nightmare Matrixes. That he ran the show, which is why he knows so much. He's been there since the beginning. And when the Architect and Oracle made the current version, he was supposed to be shut off.
They
Like
they
Smith.
wrote him out.
he and all his exiles came over and was like,
well, now what?
I'm too powerful. I'm the OS. I can code any fucking thing I want, and you can't stop me. So they basically do just kind of leave him alone. He's too powerful. And he's not going to threaten the system. He's out
because
for...
the system is working so well for him.
Yeah.
He wants for nothing.
He loves power, he loves knowledge, but he's not going to go against the machines. I mean, he technically is a machine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we get the...
He's a program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
he's
a
a program.
difference because they break down the difference between the programs and the machines. And the programs are the ones who are like,
A little more humanist.
yeah, nah, bitch, this is going down this way because I say so. And they're the ones expressing the artificial intelligence, which is beyond the intelligence of the humans. At least on most of the derivative scenes that involve them. Whenever it's just the machines, you can tell they're just operating under a single directive. These guys are like, I'm doing this because I want to, because this is the world I live in, and this is, if I get to create my own shit, this is what I'm doing.
And if I want to give some gorgeous blonde woman an orgasm with the pie, so be it.
And then
Which
that
pisses off his wife, who then...
Well, that's because, if he would have just left it at the pie, he might have been okay. But then he had to go to the woman's bathroom and get a blowjob.
Well, yeah, but at first he was like, and now if you'll excuse me, I need to go. I need to take a piece.
Which I still love that line, and I'll use variations of it throughout my life, and I always have, where it's where are you going? Oh, please, my dear, I've already explained it. I drink too much wine. I must take a piece.
Which then pisses off Persephone, because then she leads
She
them.
sides with the other guy.
Yeah, she leads them to the keymaker. I'm like, well,
Just out of spite.
And he gets pissed off. He gets pissed off. He comes back and he's like, why do you do this to me? Why?
because you just got a blowy. That's why.
But before that, let's talk about that whole weird thing where she's like, I want to feel your love for this other person.
They
in a
never
kiss.
overtly say it, but apparently
She's trying to live vicariously through Trinity.
Yeah, she really is Persephone. She's like I think in the Nightmare Matrix, she was basically a succubus.
Yeah.
She lives off love, and she's really not getting it so much from her husband anymore. So she's trying to get it from whoever they can. And hell, she even kisses Niobe in the game.
When I first saw that, I mean, I just was like,
it's awkward.
What?
It's awkward.
It seemed really forced.
Mm-hmm.
But then you realize, well, she needed to have some sort of motivation to help them, and so that was her motivation. She wanted to know what it felt like to love. And she even mentioned, she's like, well, I knew what it was once. I no longer have that memory.
And even she alludes to the fact that there's an end coming, because she's like, such a thing is not meant to last. And it's like, does anybody in this movie gonna want to tell our heroes what's going on?
Because they don't find out till what, the next movie?
It's like, because even the Merovingian, when he bursts back into the mansion, he makes the comment after Neo completely apparently all his best soldiers, but they go over like chumps. He says, he's like, I've survived your predecessors, and I'm going to survive you.
Yep.
And he does. It's like everybody knows more than the humans in this.
Yeah.
And they're just playing a game with them.
Which isn't that the way of most villains?
Yeah.
Most villains often know more than the heroes, and the heroes are just blindly going about being brave and lucky and everything under the sun that gives them that ultimate, advantage over the villains of the unpredictability of, oh wait, they did something different, and now I'm screwed.
Yep. But that's okay, because the bell has already been rung. Ding, 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 ding.
All right, and so, with Merovingian out of the way, established who he is, so we go to the Keymaker.
Yep, who they're running away, and it's that
he sicks the twins on him.
Yeah, he sicks the twins, and that gets into the whole famous
freeway.
highway scene.
Oh my god, greatest scene ever!
Which the fact that they actually... The fact that they actually built, I think it was like 1.5 to 2 mile section of runway out in the middle of like New Zealand.
Akron did try to offer them freeway under construction.
Really?
Yep, but it was
Smart.
decided it would take too much time to reset scenes. So.
Ohio's been trying to get into the film
Yeah.
game for a long time.
But even that's insane. Like, the Matrix movies are so great about doing one shot. And from what I understand, the freeway scene was one shot. They filmed it and went, good enough, we're done. It was like...
I wonder if they could have done that there.
I think they did it in sections,
Yeah.
but it wasn't... They didn't have to go, oh, well, this is... You know, the car's flipping in the background. Oh, that didn't look good. Let's reset and do it again. They didn't have to do that. The destruction, they just left the way it was and rolled with it.
And I think that's one of those things. They knew they could probably get it in one shot, but they wanted the ability to reset if it was
You always
necessary.
want the option.
So that's probably why they were like, Akron, sorry, we love you, but no.
Mythbusters benefited because they've used that fake freeway to do things like the prove the semi-truck crash from the Matrix.
So, so is that outside L.A.? That's
Yeah,
outside
it's
L.A., not New
Alameda.
Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they spent $2.5 million to make a fake highway.
Yep. It has got all the overpasses and everything still. It's impressive, and I just wish more filmmakers would do that more. But yeah, so to cut a long story short, you know, you get that actually kind of bitchin' fight sequence between the agent and Morpheus on top of the semi-truck. The agents end up colliding the two semis into each other. It's that slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
You see the metal crumpling as it's exploding. Neo has apparently been flying for the last 10 minutes, and Superman's and grabs them. Which,
Grabs them both, yep.
let's be honest, if he was flying that fast and grabbed them and jerked them up like that, their necks would be snapped. But okay, it's a movie. We're moving on.
Well, but you could reason that they were already traveling forward at a velocity that he could just, like, pick them up, grab them, and then increase his speed.
Well, and I'll meet you halfway and
so
say
they
that
wouldn't
maybe
have a neck snap from that.
I will meet you halfway and say maybe that scene he gets away with it, but the scene at the end we'll get to. There ain't no way in hell.
I agree. I cannot fight you there.
So yeah, he catches him, gets out, and it becomes this whole. Morpheus has a plot based on what the Keymaker tells him that there's that infinite hallway of doors that they keep going into, but there's a special door that leads basically into another set of doors that it's more of a dark room, and that leads to the source. And they got to come up with this asinine plan of you got to shut down, I think, 27
They didn't even
blocks.
have to come up with the asinine plan. The Keymaker already had that knowledge and was like,
They just had to do it.
this is exactly what has to happen. Here's who has to do what. Here's the part. Blah, 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 blah. Go do it. And that's where you gain that understanding again that, okay, well, he's just another
He's playing
program.
His part. Well, and he talks about that because I don't think it was Niobe. I think it's the first mate of Soren's team. I don't remember the character's name. I just know it's Captain Soren. But his first mate comments is like, why do you know all this? And he comments, he's like, because I have to. This is my role.
Right.
You know, and you start realizing that he's a program designed to do this. There's some fuckery afoot.
Yep. It's not even that he likes Neo or sympathizes with their cause. It's just, here's the key. You have to give it to Neo. Here's what you guys have to do.
And he's playing off of Morpheus's beliefs. You know? And Morpheus has that big speech about, well, tomorrow the war could be over. Isn't that worth fighting for? And isn't that worth dying for? The Keymaker never butts in and goes, yeah, that's not how it's going to happen. But
Right.
he could have. He could have easily
He
jumped
just
in.
kind of sits there and listens and is like,
Yeah, he could just be like, yeah, no, if we go through this door, you're all going to die and it's going to reset. But so then you get that convoluted plan, which flashbacks to the Matrix game. You blow up the reactor. Soren's team, they get killed on their ship before they can accomplish their mission. Trinity goes in, and it flashes back to the beginning of the movie, and she falls out the window, and, you know, suddenly...
See all that, yeah.
Oh, and there's the big fight scene. You realize that Smith now knows about the infinite doors.
Yeah.
Because he starts popping out.
Which kind of explains why maybe he got to the one phone room in the first movie quicker. You know, he knows about these maintenance hatches. They have the fight in there. They succeed. Kind of. They don't really beat Smith. They get away from Smith.
Well, kind of. Keymaker doesn't.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He gets shot.
Yeah, he gets shot.
Dies. Like then you give him the key.
And they go to the architect. And they start... in my opinion, the architect does a great job of explaining what goes on. But apparently that's not good enough for a lot of people. And they get confused.
Hi.
Yeah. I understand it completely.
I understand it. Like...
He lays all the cards out on the table and just goes, and he is not hiding anything.
No, because he's so certain that this is that final step of the program
and
we've
happened
written
5 times
okay,
before.
Neo's back. He's here to see me.
If I'm going to be honest, I was waiting for him to sell me a bucket of chicken when I first saw him.
Colonel Sanders.
So
Kinda,
I was like, huh, this is where he's been.
Which actually plays back to the very first movie where they're talking about how do the machines know what chicken tastes like. Maybe that's why they made it taste like anything. And then you've got the Colonel with his 11 herbs and spices. Yeah. Like, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, okay, maybe the Colonel is the ultimate architect of the universe.
Yeah, but in my opinion, he explains it very, very clearly, and people are like, well, I don't get it. And it's like, he's not hiding anything at this point. There's no reason. It's you're going to reboot. You're going to walk through this door and you're going to reboot Zion or reboot the Matrix, or Zion's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains, because Neo comments and is like, what do you mean this has happened before? And it's like, okay, I'm explaining it to you. We've destroyed Zion before. We're really good at it. This is how it's going to be. You know, he lays the cards out on the table. It's just...
And he's, like, not even fazed by the fact that Neo's sitting there threatening him.
Yeah.
And you see all of the Neos on the video screens in the background
he's
reacting in the million different ways that the architect knows he's going to react.
Yeah, he's like, you can go any which one of these ways, but it's the fact that, you know, he's observing Neo, and it's kind of related to, like, a mentalist thing, where he's observing all his little ticks and all the signals he's giving off, and he goes, I already know what you're going to do. You know, he's very clear about it. He's like, it's basically, you should walk through this door over here and save your people, but we know you're going to fuck off and try to save Trinity.
Right.
And he's like, you're going to doom your race. He keeps giving him that chance. It's like, you don't understand. You're going to kill your entire race. Go through the other door. Seriously. You're fucking with my plans. But as it is, you know, Neo realizes that his dream's coming true and has to Superman his way to Trinity.
So he tries to save Trinity.
Which, going back to our highway discussion, the speed at which he is traveling, when he caught her,
she would have died instantly.
Yeah, her back would have broken
so this
into...
whole convoluted plan the architect, you know, lays out, it doesn't really matter because he's going to do what he's going to do.
It's going back to what Lance says, is he is the villain who thinks he knows everything, but suddenly now you have a variation, which is inevitable. In any system, you're always going to have a variation you don't expect.
Right.
This version of Neo, he didn't expect it to happen, and he's like, wait, whoa. You're not supposed to be doing that. And
so what you're saying is the architect is kind of like me. He didn't know everything.
It just shows that
he was just as clueless.
No,
he wasn't.
He knew what was going to happen.
He ran all of the numbers and realized there was a 0.00000000001 chance that
he's going to say no.
would take that way. And this is where the Oracle steps in and says he thinks he knows everything because that's his job.
Yep. He's bound by math.
He has written everything, considered everything from every single angle, but love, again, is the overarching theme that the machines cannot fathom. Yeah. They cannot understand why love would make a human do what it is they do.
Yeah, because he is given the scenario. You can go back and try to save her, but she'll probably die anyway, which she does. or you can save your whole race. For a machine, the numbers are always what matters, so he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Oracle explains this, that his whole mission is to balance the equation. He's the architect. He's meant to make sure the system's in place.
Funny enough, you said that he doesn't understand, because you know who else doesn't understand besides me?
Probably half of America.
Well,
Fun fact.
They did
Fun
elect a
fact.
dumbass.
fun fact. Guess who was supposed to be the original architect?
Oh, I don't know.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Do you know why he turned it down? Because he didn't understand the fucking role. So yes, I am as
We're
smart as Sean
justified.
Connery.
The guy they chose.
No, you're not justified, because he also turned down Gandalf because he didn't understand Lord of the Rings.
So the guy.
Sean Connery's not a very bright man.
He needs an agent.
He's an agent, big time.
The guy that chose to play the architect probably also didn't understand the role, but wanted the paycheck.
But
Yeah.
Sean Connery did understand 007.
He did.
But he wasn't the first choice.
Oh, and while we're on fun facts, Amber fact-checked and corrected me.
Oh.
Jet Li
I saw.
was supposed to be Seraph.
And then
Did not get the role because he wanted to be paid as much as Keanu. And they're like, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah,
And then
you're
they-
a supporting role.
and then they rewrote it for Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
I think, and then she couldn't do it because of her schedule.
Yep.
So then they made it a guy again.
Discount Jet Li. So he's literally discount Jet Li.
Yeah.
Apparently Michelle Yeoh is discount Jet Li.
Apparently, yeah. So our joke
Yep.
has survived.
And that does go back to every role could be played by anybody.
Sure. It really could.
Yeah, they don't care. It could be anybody. So I guess now we're at the end. You know, he saves. Well, Trinity dies from her wounds.
Kinda.
He literally reaches inside her code and jumpstarts her heart, which is weird that he has that ability.
Yeah.
And then the movie kind of ends with the Nebuchadnezzar being destroyed. They're picked up by the hammer, or it is officially called Mjolnir. I don't know why it's so hard for people to pronounce that. They're picked up by the hammer, and that's when it's revealed that the only other survivor they've picked up is Bane, who is also Smith.
Physical Smith.
And see, that's the weird part, right? Because this is where I go back to the fact that they've been mixing in the biblical references and the neo-pagan references. You know, you've got the Greek mythos that permeates it. You've got the Norse mythos. There's all of these different things that they're drawing from to create the overarching kind of mental landscape of their inhabitants. But it's all to say, look, you have to believe in something. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to add that when the ship's traveling to Zion, to further illustrate the Mjolnir fact, it's got the blue crackling lightning the whole time. Which now that we've got all of our Avengers movies, we can look at and go, oh, hey, that's exactly what they're doing now with Thor.
Just imagine Thor showing up and being like, oh, agents?
Hey, that's my ship.
Hey, that's my ship, please. I'm the only one that can wield it.
It's named after me, bitches. I'm just going to pick this up and throw it at a bunch of Sentinels.
But it was just a nice visual touch to reiterate, hey,
this is what it's named after.
Yeah.
So, because you're real quick before we kind of end the reloaded,
Animatrix Reloaded.
the intervals and reloaded segment.
Because I think we're going into a third one.
We're gonna have to.
Definitely.
But
Thought we could end it here, but nope.
nope.
I mean, we tried. We gave it
tried.
the good college go.
Yeah. But since you were talking about kind of the actor situation, that permeated the sequels, you know, the one actor who played Tank wanted too much money, and they shit canned him. Jet Li wanted too much money; he was gone. Niobe was, and there is still footage out there a little bit. Niobe was originally played by Aaliyah.
No, that was Z.
Or
Z's character was
Z.
originally.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And then she died.
That
But
made,
then she died.
That made
And
some,
she had shot a lot of her scenes already, so they had to reshoot.
That made
That
some
sucks.
pretty big news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart because
I love Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Aaliyah was amazing as Akasha.
I just loved Aaliyah and everything.
That's
she
why
did.
I was looking forward to it. I'm like, I can't wait to see this. And then
Could you imagine her
it just
as
bubbled
Niobe?
up.
Oh,
Lambert, who plays I can't think of the name, the word.
Lambert.
He's the Frenchman.
Oh, Merovingian.
He is actually French, but he
Yeah.
highly exaggerated his French accent
Oh,
for
yeah.
the film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He also strings a bunch of obscenities together
Oh,
that
no.
would never actually
Actually,
exist.
Oh, no. It exists
I can tell you what it says.
in context of in the French language
No.
translated.
Yeah.
What he literally is saying is goddamn whore, filthy shithouse, jerk bugger of your mother.
Yeah.
It's literally what it translates into.
Yeah. It's a string of obscenities that's just strange, but
It sounds pretty in French.
yeah, he says that. He's like, oh, I love cursing in the French language.
Because he can say whatever he wants and half the crowd will be like, oh.
Well, and when I went to the theaters, there was a guy like a couple rows back from me and my dad who was cracking up, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be like a Canadian French guy or a French guy.
I understood about 30% of it because of my French class background
See, I had
and everything.
taken
But...
some French by that point, but I didn't learn any swear words. But
Oh, that was the first thing I did. I had an English to French dictionary. I went and taught myself all kinds of dumb shit. One of the phrases, like, our teacher was like, okay, so ask me a phrase in French. And we always would look at her and be like, tu donnes bon tête? Like, you give good head?
Back on topic.
Which is not what that actually means. But anyway.
There were also a lot of injuries to the main cast
oh yeah,
during this movie.
because I think Keanu, there's
he
pictures of him
had-
sitting in like one of those metal dog baths filled with ice, and he just sits in it.
And
It's like,
he had a foot injury that had to required a cast.
ooh,
Carrie Ann Moss broke her leg training for Wire.
Jeez.
Lawrence Fishburne fractured his arm in another training incident. And Hugo Weaving put out a disc in his neck while being pulled on a wire.
This was for a long
So they
time.
used
Movie,
the
it's
main
cursed.
cast.
It was considered a cursed movie, much like the whole Superman thing and what was the other main one?
It's a horror movie with the closet.
Poltergeist?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Poltergeist.
Shitload of people died on that one.
Yeah. So it grew in.
hey, if Jim Caviezel can take lightning strikes, Neo can take a fucking foot.
That's because
right?
Jim is God, okay?
Yeah, it grew in the rumor mill that it was a cursed script and cursed production. Yeah, and anybody who took part in it was going to have some sort of thing.
Yet three
their
actors.
their careers were gonna fail.
Yet three actors signed back on before a script was ever released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
yeah,
like,
because
we
it's
wanna-
it's the main cast.
No, it was Lawrence
wasn't?
Fishburne and a couple other people. Hold
Well,
on.
Lawrence Fishburne's
He's
main
part of the main
cast.
cast.
Well,
yeah.
he's main cast, but Jada Pinkett Smith and Anthony Brandon Wong,
Yeah.
they all signed on without having read it. And I don't consider them main cast. I consider Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus
Yeah.
main
Right,
cast.
right.
Yeah, no, being Ghosts were kind of
They were the supporting roles. And if they hadn't signed back on, they could have easily written somebody else into those roles and written them out. But I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, so
back on.
on to episode 3.
Back on topic of ending the topic. We're going to have to extend ourselves into the craziness that's the final movie.
Revolution.
Yep.
All right, so that is episode 2 wrapped up. If you're a fan of Reloaded,
Yeah.
hopefully you
And
enjoyed
the
it.
intervals.
Yeah.
And the intervals. Yeah.
Definitely thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure you pop by and leave us some feedback. And let us know other things you'd like to hear us talk about.
And as I said in the first one, quote war!
Quote war! Because we'll join you. We will.
And on that note, Nerd Herd out.